Exclamation, everybody, and welcome to an odd edition of Oceanhorn here. This is going to be more of a highlight reel because this episode was a real pain in the neck to record. A very, very long session. I've cut it down into just the, I guess, important parts, if you want to call it that. Basically, I end up spending a lot of time in this room just trying to figure out stuff. The puzzles in this area of the game were really terrible, for me anyway, and kind of a lot of work for almost no payoff, as you'll see in a little bit. Also, this episode contains probably the most boring boss battle you ever did see in your life, and that's also why I've kind of I'm recording this. I'm doing a post recording on this because of that. As you can see in here, I've been just racking my head trying to figure out how to get past this part. I'm just throwing bombs everywhere. I'm like, you know what? Screw this place. I'm just gonna bomb everything and see what happens. Because I see that statue over there. I'm like, okay, maybe I can pull this statue or something, or maybe I can push it, and it's not budging. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Eventually, I find out, no, I gotta push it the other way, not the way I was trying to push it. And all of that was to just get that chest to fall, to get the key in order to open that door. And it only gets worse from here, my friends. It only gets worse, trust me. We've got a little cut coming up here. Again, I'm doing this as post-commentary because I did also have some problems with my audio because it was, it was out of sync, and I don't know why I got out of sync, and it was just, I couldn't get it back into sync. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I felt like this is probably the better way of doing things. Later on in this cave, as you can see, we get this little puzzle here. We got 4 boxes and 3 buttons. And so, of course, I push all the boxes onto buttons, well, the 3 that can move on the buttons, and nothing happens. So I'm trying different variations on it, and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just only one of them needs to be, maybe 2 needs to be on there. That other box over there, it doesn't move, so I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Well, fast forward about 30 minutes, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just try to blow this box up. And lo and behold, there was a button underneath there that whole time. That is incredibly frustrating because nothing like this has been in the game thus far. I mean, blowing up stuff and finding chests and whatnot, sure, but not like buttons that you have to push and all that stuff. Not that I can recall anyway. So that was, I'm a little bit pissed off at this point. Just a little bit. But I'm like, you know what, we got past it, let's just keep going. So later on, I'm fighting this guy, and then all of a sudden we get a cutscene.
You're right here. Yes, this is the place.
This is the guy that was kind of peeking in on us earlier.
Throw your bomb right there.
So we end up opening the door, which is what we were here for in the first place. And that guy ends up running away with our mother's necklace. So, in true fashion, we also level up here. It comes up in a minute right now. Yeah, we're leveled up to level 11, which I think is Vanguard. So that's a thing. So I go chasing after a guy. I go into the central core here. This puzzle right here, just feast your eyes on the ridiculousness of this. This is a timed puzzle. This is about the 7th or 8th, not even that. This is about the 17th time I've done it. The reason being is that last jump there, when you're jumping onto those 3 things, well, as you saw, my guy kept rolling and not jumping, and then he would roll and then get stopped, and then I would run out of time. It was just pissing me off enormously. But I'm like, well, okay, maybe this was just to get some kind of side area, right? So later on down here, we find the chest. We get to the chest area, and this has got the Shield of Kronos, and I find out just through sheer boredom that I can actually throw pots at these guys. You can't hit them. I can hit them with my sword and it doesn't do anything, at least the sword that I have equipped anyway. But I can throw pots at them and end up doing damage, and of course I ran out of pots, so then I just end up throwing the fire at them because that's the only thing I had at hand. So we got a bunch of experience for that, and in the chest is the Shield of Kronos. Now I thought at this point, I thought, well, maybe this was just a side area. Maybe it was just a side quest. Maybe this wasn't really that important. That's why they made the puzzles so ridiculously hard, you know, to the point where it's like you felt like the game was kind of broken because of that damn jumping puzzle. But no, it turns out, as you can see later on in the puzzle in the area here, we've got a laser, and we have to use this newly gotten shield to reflect the laser beam back at those mirrors in order to open these two side passages. Without opening these side passages, you cannot get any further in the game. There is the master key is behind these doors. Eventually, you have to go through a whole lot more of a maze, a lot more enemies and everything else to get through on both sides of this in order to unlock the chest, which is, you know, the chest will fall out of the ceiling when I go down this left-hand one, and then you got to go down the right-hand one eventually, and you get to the chest, as I'm showing here, and it's the master key. All right, so I'm like, all right, at this point, I'm done with this area. There's this another area near here that I didn't know how to get to. I'm like, screw it, I'm done. Let's go fight the boss. So here we come upon the boss area, and there's a little cutscene, so I'll be quiet while that goes on.
Why isn't this working? What am I missing? Do you hear me, Master?
Initiate materialization. Opening communication protocol. I sense the power of the gods. Emblems of creation. The order will be restored. I will resurrect as your god.
Okay, so now we have to face, as I've said earlier, this is Shadow Mesmeroth, Spiritus Ex Machina. We have to face probably the most boring and stupid boss battle I've ever seen in my life. Basically, I have to reflect all his fireballs back at him. And so we absolutely needed the shield that I found, that I had to go through all that hell to get to, right? Unfortunately, it's all RNG at this point. Like, this guy, he meanders around. You know, this first section here I was able to get through. Now he dropped 3 copies of himself, and one of them is true and the other ones aren't. Now, the camera does sort of give it away, which I find out a little bit later, but it's still really hard. And later on in the game, he actually drops 4 copies of himself, and the camera just freaks out. Like, you can't even see where the hell you're going half the time. So this is like the second form here, where he's like, oh, I'm going to go chill out over here, and I'm going to shoot these freaking missiles at you that are scarily accurate, which is why I do the last 2 here on this side, because the torches there block some of the missiles. And then we're back into this, let me fire more fireballs at you. And as you can see, he's like meandering around the outside there. He's in no rush. And this is a timed area, right? So like, if I don't hit him twice with his fireballs, 2 good hits, he will run back to the machine there, and then I got to do that other part all over again, and it just continues on and on and on. All right, this one I got lucky where I actually hit him right away, but you'll see after I get him down to a certain level of health, and I'm tapping the button as fast as I can here, and that's what's, you know, that's how lackluster it is. Now you see he's moving back over to the other side again. So yeah, we're gonna skip ahead to the very end here. This is literally 53 minutes later. 53 minutes later, and 1 or 2 deaths along the way. We finally get through this guy because he was just taking his good old time. I wasn't doing any damage to him. He was just kind of just wandering around until the timer was up, and then going back to that section again, and then you can't damage him when he's there, and it's just there are so many things wrong with this boss battle. It's just bad. Like, you cannot have a boss battle that is based entirely on a random number. It just makes for the most boring thing you've ever seen in your life. It was difficult, and I had to redo it a couple times, but even then it was just the difficulty stemmed from the fact that I was just bored. I was just tired. I'm like, you know what? You just made one small mistake, and those pots around the area there, only 2 of them have hearts in them. The rest are just nonsense, right? So it's just it's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. The worst boss battle of all my years of playing games, the worst boss battle I've ever played, honestly, because it's not that it was even difficult. It was just annoying, extremely annoying. But now you see we've lowered Sky Island back down into the ocean, so we're no longer trapped on there where we can't go anywhere. And then there's a bunch of cutscene here, and I will shut up for that.
To describe our gratitude. You brought back the hope that Arcadia can be restored. Grand Core is back in the power grid. Its power flows through the ancient kingdom. We were shocked to find out Mesmeroth's spirit was lurking inside our machines all this time. I'm afraid the program is still active, and its purpose is to resurrect Mesmeroth himself. With
Computer,
the
delete
Mesmeroth
program
interface
Moriarty.
destroyed, the only way for Mesmeroth's resurrection
Star
is to
Trek
move into
reference
another
there.
machine. And the only Arcadian machine left is Living Fortress Oceanhorn. But for the first time in the history of Sky People, our studies pay off. We can open the door to Arcadia ruins for you.
Alright, so I finally get my freedom back to go around, and I decide I'm going to go get that Carl Saber, which is apparently, back at the reef area that I was at before. And I finally figured out how to get those two statues to face one another, which is why I got to this point. So I pick up the Carl Saber here, and spoilers, not as good a weapon as they said, as I was led to believe. But you'll see the little cutscene here where I yank it out of the old carcass of whatever this one was called. I forget the name of this particular monster that was killed there. But yeah, it's supposed to be the best sword in the game. Really not. Doesn't really make much of a difference at all in the final battles and whatnot. But that is for another day. And actually, hopefully the next two episodes will be normal episodes. This one just required me to. I couldn't subject you to the terribleness that this episode was. And right as I pulled that out of there, my controller ran out of batteries. So this guy will continually wreck me over and over again until I get more batteries into my controller a little bit later. So that will do it for this episode of Oceanhorn. Sorry about the shape of the episode, but thanks very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.